What if everything you were told about heaven and hell was wrong? What if they are not places waiting for you after death, but states that you are already walking through right now? Pause for a moment and let that idea sink in. Imagine that heaven and hell are not distant cities somewhere beyond the sky, but inner landscapes of your own mind. Every joy, every pain, every fire, every light, all of it exists within you. This is the secret Rumi whispered centuries ago, a truth so radical that it had to be hidden beneath layers of dogma and fear. Rumi once said, "Do not look for heaven in the sky or for hell under the earth. Heaven is the light that rises in your heart when it is free. Hell is the fire that consumes you when your soul is chained." Think about it. When you are in love, when the world itself seems to sing to you, when every sound becomes music and every breath tastes like a miracle, you are in heaven. No gates, no angels, no afterlife required. Heaven reveals itself in the openness of your heart. And when envy burns you, when despair makes every morning feel heavy, when anger poisons your thoughts and nothing in the world feels worth living for, you are in hell. No demons, no punishment after death, just the flames of your own mind. You have already walked through both states, haven't you? Without dying even once, you have known heaven and you have known hell. Close your eyes and think of the last time you felt completely alive. Maybe it was standing before the endless ocean, hearing the waves crash against eternity. Maybe it was holding someone you loved so deeply that you forgot where your body ended and theirs began. In that moment, you were not in this world. You were already in heaven. And yet nothing around you had changed. The same earth, the same sky. The only thing that shifted was inside you. Now think of the opposite. Remember a day when grief hollowed your chest, when every sound pierced like a blade, when the mirror felt like your enemy. That was hell. You didn't need flames or monsters. The torture was your own thoughts, your own pain, your own mind turning against you. If this is true, then heaven and hell are not waiting for you in some faraway afterlife. They are born within you every single day. You carry both doors in your chest, one to paradise, one to torment. And here is the shocking secret. You are the one who chooses which door you step through. This is why Rumi spoke of polishing the mirror of the heart. When your heart is clear, you reflect the light of the divine, and you live in heaven. But when your heart is clouded with fear, greed, or despair, you suffer the burning of hell. No priest, no doctrine, no temple can give you heaven, and no punishment from outside can throw you into hell. Both rise and fall with the movement of your thoughts. So let me ask you a question, and I want you to answer it in the comments below. This is not for me. It is for you. What is the one moment in your life when you felt you were already in heaven without leaving this earth? Write it down. Name it. Because the moment you name it, you begin to remember the doorway. We begin here. This is the first step into Rumi's forbidden teaching. Heaven and hell are not after death. They are happening right now, inside your consciousness. This is not a story about dying. It is a story about truly living, about waking up to the fire you are holding in your chest and the light you have always carried in your eyes. Part 2. The prison of fear and the fire of love. If heaven and hell are states of the mind, then why were we taught to believe they are places after death? Why did so many voices insist that paradise is locked away beyond the stars and hell buried deep beneath the earth? The answer is as old as power itself. Fear is the easiest chain to place around the human heart. When you convince people that their eternal destiny hangs on obedience, they will kneel, they will surrender, and they will stop asking questions. Heaven becomes a reward for submission. Hell becomes the whip for rebellion. And the soul, once wild and free, begins to live inside a cage of fear. But Rumi tears down that cage with one line of poetry. He does not speak as a theologian who wants to control you, but as a lover who wants you to be free. He whispers, "Do not be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth. Unfold your own myth." These words are dangerous, because once you begin to believe that heaven is inside you, and hell too, no one else has power over your fate. No ruler, no priest, no book can dictate your experience of paradise or suffering. You hold the keys, and that terrifies those who profit from your fear. Think of it this way. When a child is born, the world is new, glowing, alive. Everything is a miracle. The child does not know theology. The child does not fear eternal flames or dream of golden gardens. And yet, in the laughter of play, in the warmth of love, the child already tastes heaven. Paradise is not distant, it is immediate. Then the teachings come, rules, threats, promises. If you behave, you will be rewarded after you die. If you disobey, you will be punished forever. Slowly, the mind begins to split. The joy of simply being alive is replaced by fear of what will come. Heaven is pushed into the future. Hell is hidden in the shadows. And the present moment, the only place where heaven can ever truly exist, is stolen. Rumi understood this theft. He saw the way people lived like prisoners in their own minds, waiting for salvation, fearing damnation. He wanted to give them back their wings. That is why he spoke of fire, of longing, of the wound as the doorway. His poetry is not sweet comfort. It is a burning sword that cuts through illusion. When you read him, you feel it. He does not say believe. He says taste. He does not say obey. He says dance. He does not say fear. He says burn. Because for Rumi, heaven is not a contract. It is an experience. It is a fire that expands you, not a place you move into after death. And hell is not a sentence. It is a forgetting, the forgetting of your true nature, the forgetting that love is already here. Imagine your life as a house. When the windows are open, light pours in, and you are in heaven. When the shutters are closed, when dust covers the glass, you are in hell. The house has not changed. The difference is whether you allow the light to enter. This is what religion feared most, the idea that you could live heaven now. Not later, not after rituals, not after judgment, but now. If you taste heaven in your breath, in your silence, in your love, then who can control you with fear? If you know that hell is only the storm of your own thoughts, then who can threaten you with eternal fire? Rumi's secret is this: heaven and hell are not locations, but vibrations of the soul. And you can shift them. You can step from one to the other with a single choice, to open or to close, to love or to fear, to remember or to forget. So let me ask you, and I invite you to sit with this as you listen. When was the last time you felt trapped in hell, not by demons, but by your own thoughts? And what was the one thing, however small, that gave you a glimpse of light again? Write it down. Share it if you dare, because that is how you begin to reclaim the keys to your own heaven. Part 3. The fire that burns and the light that heals. Rumi tells us something that sounds impossible at first. He says the very fire that you think will destroy you is the same fire that will purify you. The flame of longing, the ache of loss, the wound of despair. All of these are not punishments. They are doorways. Think about it. Every time you have truly changed, every time your life shifted in a way that left you wiser or deeper, was it because of comfort or was it because of pain? It is not pleasure that carves new paths in the soul. It is fire. This is why Rumi says, try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. And do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come? Hell, then, is not the fire itself. Hell is fighting against the fire, refusing to let it transform you. Heaven is when you allow the flame to burn away the illusions, the false selves, the masks that no longer serve you. Heaven is surrendering to the flame, knowing that it is not here to kill you, but to reveal who you really are. Close your eyes and picture this. You are standing before a great furnace. Inside, everything you thought you were, your titles, your pride, your fears, begins to melt. At first, it feels unbearable. You want to run. You want to save the pieces of yourself that are burning. But if you stay, if you endure, something miraculous happens. The fire does not leave you empty. It leaves you clean. It leaves you free. That is why Rumi speaks so often of longing. Longing is fire. When you long for truth, when you long for love, when you long for God, you are burning. And yet, that burning is already heaven. Because in longing, you are alive, awake, connected to something greater than yourself. Now think of the times when you felt nothing, when the world seemed gray, flat, meaningless. That numbness is worse than pain, because pain still moves. Pain is fire, but numbness is the true hell. It is the closing of the door, the shutting down of life itself. This is why Rumi writes not only about joy, but also about sorrow, about absence, about wounds. He wants you to see that your pain is not the enemy. It is the invitation. Heaven is not the absence of fire. Heaven is stepping into it with trust, allowing it to shape you into something radiant. Look at the stars. Every one of them is fire, burning in silence across the darkness. Without fire, there would be no light. Without burning, there would be no beauty in the night sky. What if your soul is the same? What if your suffering is simply the fire that turns you into a star? So the question is not whether you will burn. You will. Life guarantees it. The question is, will you resist and turn your fire into hell? Or will you surrender and let it become heaven? Rumi's answer is simple, but not easy. He says, try to accept the wound, for it is the place where the light enters you. That one line holds the entire secret. Hell is resisting the wound. Heaven is opening to it. The wound is the gate, not the punishment. Let me ask you something now, and I invite you to answer in the comments if you feel called. What is one wound in your life that, looking back, actually opened a new path for you? A pain that in the moment felt unbearable, but later became the very reason you grew. By naming it, you begin to see what Rumi saw, that the fire and the light are not enemies. They are one and the same. Part 4. Love as the highest heaven. If fire is the teacher, then love is the crown of the lesson. Rumi does not speak of love as a sweet decoration for life, but as the very force that holds the universe together. He says that love is the bridge between you and everything else, and without it, there is no heaven, no truth, no God. We have been told many times that love is dangerous, that desire corrupts, that longing leads us astray. But Rumi says the opposite. He says that love is the only doorway worth walking through. Every wound, every fire, Every longing is trying to point you back toward love. Heaven is not a reward after death. Heaven is love felt fully, without fear, right now. Think of the moments in your life when you were most alive. Did they not all carry the flavor of love? Love for another person, love for beauty, love for the mystery of existence itself. Even when love hurt, even when it burned, there was still something divine in it. Because to love is to touch the eternal. Rumi says, "Through love, bitter things become sweet. Through love, copper turns to gold. Through love, dregs become clear. Through love, pains become healing." Notice the pattern. He is telling you that heaven is nothing other than the transformation of everything through love. Pain does not vanish. Fire does not disappear. But in the presence of love, they turn into something radiant. Imagine walking through your daily life with this awareness. Every face you see is a mirror of the beloved. Every word you hear carries an echo of eternity. Every sorrow you feel is secretly a letter written in love's handwriting. Suddenly, the streets you walk become holy ground. Suddenly, the air you breathe is the perfume of paradise. Heaven is not above you. It is all around you, if you let love open your eyes. And here is the most shocking part. Love is not limited. You do not run out of it by giving it. In fact, the more you pour it out, the more you discover. It is not like water in a jar. It is like fire. When you give your fire to another candle, your own flame does not shrink. It grows brighter. This is why Rumi says, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if you have never known such seasons before. Because love changes you, expands you, and through that expansion, heaven becomes real. But when love is denied, when it is buried under fear or shame, hell begins. A loveless soul is not punished after death. It is punished right now. It lives in dryness, in silence, in exile from the truth of its own being. This is why people who cannot love are restless, bitter, endlessly unsatisfied. They live in hell because they have closed the only door to paradise. Ask yourself now, honestly, when you feel most like yourself, when you are free of masks and defenses, is it not when you are loving? And when you feel most lost, most broken, is it not when you have turned away from love, or when love has been wounded inside you? Rumi is not asking you to chase love as a possession. He is not speaking about desire as ownership. He is speaking of love as a way of being, a flame that lights everything it touches. To him, love is the essence of God, and to live in love is to live in heaven itself. So here is the secret that shakes the ground beneath old teachings. Love is not dangerous. Love is salvation. Desire is not a sin. Desire is the compass of the soul, pointing you back toward the beloved. If heaven is anything, it is the full flowering of this truth. Let me ask you something to sit with, and if you wish, write it in the comments below. Who or what in your life has taught you the most about love, even if it came through pain? A person, an experience, a loss? Because those teachers, whether gentle or fierce, have already given you glimpses of heaven. Heaven is not far away. It is in the next act of love you allow yourself to give or receive. Part 5. When love destroys the prison of ego. If love is heaven, then what keeps us from entering it? Rumi answers without hesitation. It is the ego, the false self, the mask that pretends to be you. The ego thrives on control, on pride, on separation. Love destroys all of that, and that is why, to the ego, love feels like death. But here's the paradox. What the ego calls death, the soul calls birth. When your ego burns away in love, What is left is not emptiness. What is left is freedom. That freedom is heaven. Think of how the ego speaks. It says, protect yourself. Do not let anyone in. Hold tight to what is yours. Dominate before you are dominated. The ego builds walls and crowns itself king inside those walls. But what kind of kingdom is this? A prison made of mirrors where you see only yourself and you mistake that isolation for power. Now listen to how love speaks. It whispers, break the walls, share your flame, trust the risk, surrender your crown. To the ego, this is unbearable. To the soul, it is the sound of home. Rumi says, try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if you have never known such seasons before. He is talking about letting love dismantle your false identity. He is telling you not to cling to who you think you are, because only when you let go of that mask can heaven open inside you. Imagine this. A drop of water resists the ocean. It says, I am separate. I am strong. I will not dissolve. And so it trembles on the edge, dry, alone, afraid of being swallowed. That drop is the ego. Then one day it falls into the sea. In that moment, it disappears. But at the same time, it becomes infinite. That is the secret of love. It looks like loss, but it is expansion. It looks like death, but it is resurrection. This is why Rumi speaks of dying before you die. He says, die before you die. There is no death after that. What does he mean? He means let the ego die now. Let the false self burn away in the fire of love. If you do this, then death itself has no power over you, because the part of you that can die has already been surrendered. What remains is the soul, and the soul is eternal. Hell, then, is the kingdom of ego. It is the endless cycle of fear and pride, the prison of separation. Heaven is the moment the ego surrenders to love, the moment you allow yourself to dissolve into something greater. Have you ever felt this? A moment where you lost yourself completely, in music, in prayer, in love, in wonder. And for a second, you were not you anymore, and yet you were more yourself than ever before. That is heaven. That is the glimpse of what happens when the ego steps aside. Rumi does not want you to wait for that moment to come randomly. He wants you to live it, to practice it, to surrender daily. Every time you let go of control, every time you forgive, every time you give without expecting anything back, the ego loosens and love takes its place. And love is the air of paradise. So let me ask you, and I invite you to reflect honestly, what is one thing your ego clings to? Something you know deep down is keeping you from love? Is it pride? Is it fear? Is it the need to always be right? Write it, name it, share it. Because the moment you see the chain, you already begin to break it. The ego promises safety, but delivers loneliness. Love feels dangerous, but delivers heaven. This is the secret, and Rumi knew it well. Part 6. The silence that holds the infinite. If love burns away the ego, what remains when the fire is finished? For Rumi, the answer is silence. But do not mistake this silence for emptiness. It is not a void of nothing. It is the space where everything becomes possible. We fear silence. We fill our lives with noise, with chatter, with distractions. We scroll, we talk, we run, we drown ourselves in sound. Why? Because silence is where the truth waits, and truth terrifies the ego. In silence, you cannot hide from yourself. In silence, you cannot pretend. You face the mirror of your soul with no mask. Rumi says, silence is the language of God. All else is poor translation. Do you feel the weight of that? It means that the divine does not speak in words, in dogmas, in debates. The divine speaks in stillness, in the spaces between your thoughts. Heaven is not a crowded city of noise. Heaven is the clarity that rises when the heart is still. Imagine yourself standing in the desert at night. The wind has stopped. The sky is endless. No sound but your breath. In that silence, you are not empty. You are overflowing. You can feel the pulse of the stars. You can hear the universe breathing with you. That silence is heaven. And what is hell? Hell is the restless mind that cannot stop. Hell is the endless noise inside your head, the chatter of fear, the screams of doubt, the whispers of regret. Hell is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of silence. We have been taught to seek heaven as pleasure, as endless joy. But Rumi teaches us something more profound. Heaven is not the flood of sensations. Heaven is the stillness in which you finally meet yourself as you truly are. Heaven is when you no longer need noise to distract you, because the silence itself is enough. Think of the last time you sat quietly, really quietly. Maybe it was late at night when everyone else had gone to sleep. Maybe it was in nature, where no machines hummed, no voices echoed. Did you feel the way silence stretched? At first, it can be uncomfortable. Your mind tries to fill it. But then, if you stay, something shifts. The silence begins to embrace you. And in that embrace, you feel peace that nothing else can give. That is the beginning of heaven. Rumi often used metaphors of music. But notice what music really is. It is not just sound. It is sound shaped by silence. Without silence between the notes, there would be no melody, only chaos. Heaven is not the endless sound. Heaven is the perfect balance of sound and silence, of movement and stillness. And in that stillness, the divine speaks, not with words, but with presence, not with doctrines, but with truth that cannot be explained, only felt. This is why Rumi's poems often fall into silence themselves, as if he could only take you so far with language before he had to leave you at the edge of the wordless. So the question is, can you sit in silence long enough to hear? Can you let yourself stop running, stop filling the air, stop numbing your restlessness, long enough to realize that heaven has always been waiting in the quiet? Think about this. When was the last time you actually listened to silence? Not just heard it, but listened? What did it reveal to you? Share it if you dare, because in naming your silence, you give it power to grow. For Rumi, heaven was not far. It was in the pause between breaths, in the stillness after the storm, in the quiet center of your being. And once you taste that silence, you will never confuse it with emptiness again. Part 7. The Paradise of Presence. If silence is the doorway, then presence is the place it leads to. Rumi does not speak of paradise as a garden in the clouds. He speaks of it as the moment when you are fully alive, when the weight of past regrets and the fear of the future dissolve, and you are here, now, in the eternal present. Think about how much of your life you spend anywhere but here. Your body may be in the room, but your mind is wandering. You replay old wounds, you rehearse future fears, you drift between yesterday and tomorrow like a ghost. That is not life, that is exile. And exile, Rumi would say, is hell. Heaven, by contrast, is the instant you wake up to the present moment. When you stop running, stop clinging, stop rehearsing. When you taste the tea you are drinking, when you notice the breath rising and falling, when you look into another's eyes and actually see them, not your memories, not your hopes, but them, here and now. That is heaven. Rumi says, try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if you have never known such seasons before. Why? Because presence means trusting that this moment, however it feels, is exactly the doorway you need. Heaven is not only in joy. Heaven is in awareness, even of sorrow. Heaven is when you stop escaping what is. Imagine this. You are walking through a garden, but your thoughts are elsewhere. You worry about tomorrow. You regret yesterday. You do not notice the flowers. You do not hear the birds. You pass through paradise and you miss it. This is how most of us live. Heaven surrounds us, but we are absent. Now imagine the same walk, but this time you are present. You see the dew on the petals. You hear the laughter of children. You feel the air on your skin. You smell the earth. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Nothing has changed in the world. The garden is the same. The difference is that you are here. That shift is heaven. Hell, on the other hand, is the prison of absence. It is when you are not where you are. It is when your mind refuses the gift of now, when you are chained to shadows of the past or illusions of the future. You can be sitting in sunlight and still feel darkness because your mind is not present. Rumi's teaching is simple, yet it overturns everything. Heaven is not waiting. Heaven is always offered, but only presence can open the door. This is why he urges you to be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. The tree does not cling to last season's growth. It surrenders. It stands in the season that is here. And in that surrender, it flourishes. Ask yourself, when was the last time you were completely present? Maybe holding a newborn child, maybe watching a sunset, maybe listening to music so deeply that you forgot time. In those moments, heaven was already yours, not after death, not in some promised future. Here, presence is not easy. The ego resists it. The mind wants to wander, to analyze, to cling. But practice begins with the smallest steps. Take a breath now, wherever you are. Feel it. Let it rise and fall. For that one breath, you are in heaven. Do you see how close it has always been? So here is a question for you, and if you wish, answer it in the comments. What is one simple thing you can do today, not tomorrow, to bring yourself fully into the present? Maybe it is to taste your food. Maybe it is to walk without your phone. Maybe it is to listen to someone without interrupting. Whatever it is, that small act is your doorway to paradise. Rumi teaches us that heaven is not later. Heaven is presence, and the only thing standing between you and that paradise is your own absence. Part 8. Desire as the compass toward paradise. We have been taught to fear desire. Entire traditions have warned us that wanting is sin, that longing is weakness, that yearning is dangerous. But Rumi dares to whisper something different, something forbidden. He says that desire is not the chain that drags you to hell. Desire is the compass that points you back toward heaven. Think of your deepest longing, not the surface cravings, not the distractions that flicker and fade, but the ache that lives in your chest, the hunger that never quite goes away. Maybe it is the longing to be fully loved. Maybe it is the longing to belong. Maybe it is the longing to touch the mystery of life itself. That longing, Rumi says, is the voice of the beloved calling you home. Desire becomes hell only when you mistake the direction. When you think the ache can be silenced by possessions, by power, by status, you end up chasing shadows. You run endlessly, and yet the hunger deepens. That is hell. The endless pursuit of things that cannot satisfy the soul. But when you see desire for what it really is, the flame of the soul reaching toward its source, then longing becomes holy. It is no longer something to be ashamed of. It is the very proof that heaven is already within you, waiting to be uncovered. Rumi says, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Desire itself is a wound, a gap, an emptiness that aches. But he is telling you that this wound is not your enemy. It is the sacred crack through which the light of heaven shines. Without longing, you would not search. Without searching, you would not find. Imagine thirst. To be thirsty is painful, but thirst is also the proof that water exists. If water did not exist, thirst would not exist either. The same is true of desire. Your longing for love proves that love is real. Your yearning for truth proves that truth is real. Your hunger for heaven proves that heaven is not a myth, but a state of being that your soul remembers. So why were we told to fear desire? Because desire makes you free. A person who listens to their true longing cannot be controlled. They cannot be bought, cannot be silenced, cannot be chained by promises of reward or threats of punishment. Desire is rebellion against exile. It is the soul refusing to accept a false life. Rumi does not say kill your desire. He says refine it. Let it burn away what is false. Let it sharpen until it points only to the beloved. This is why he speaks of longing as both fire and sweetness. Longing burns, but it also tastes like honey, because in longing you are already halfway home. Close your eyes and remember a time when you felt a deep yearning for truth, for beauty, for love. Did that yearning not feel both painful and alive? Did it not remind you that you are more than just flesh and routine? That ache is the pulse of heaven inside you. The tragedy is not that we desire. The tragedy is that we settle for less than what our desire truly seeks. We drown the soul's longing in noise, in comfort, in distraction, and then we wonder why we feel empty. But Rumi says the emptiness is not a curse. It is the beloved knocking at the door. So I ask you, what is the one longing in your life that refuses to leave, no matter how much you try to silence it? Do not dismiss it. Do not fear it. Name it. Because in naming it, you are already listening to the compass of your soul, and that compass always points toward paradise. Rumi's forbidden teaching is simple and radical. Desire is not sin. Desire is the proof that heaven is within reach, and the soul that dares to follow its longing has already begun to walk the path of paradise. Part 9. The mirror of relationships. If desire is the compass, then relationships are the mirror. Rumi tells us that other people are not distractions on the path to heaven. They are the very path itself. Every face you meet, every heart you touch, is a mirror held up to your own soul. In their eyes, you discover the heaven or hell that you carry inside. Think of the last time you fell in love. For a moment, did it not feel as if the entire world had changed? The sky looked brighter, the air felt lighter, everything pulsed with new meaning. That person did not create heaven inside you. They only reflected back the heaven that was already there, hidden beneath layers of fear and silence. But the same is true in the opposite direction. Think of the times when someone wounded you, betrayed you, or left you feeling hollow. That pain was not only their action, it was also a mirror showing you the shadows you carried within, the unhealed wounds, the fears you had buried. That was hell, revealed not by flames, but by reflection. Rumi says, try to accept the changing seasons of your heart. Relationships are those seasons. Some arrive like spring, filling you with blossoms. Some arrive like winter, stripping you bare. But every one of them teaches you who you are. Every one of them holds a mirror up to your heaven and your hell. We like to imagine that heaven is solitude, that we can find paradise by shutting others out. But Rumi reminds us that no one reaches heaven alone. Love is not a private fire. It is a flame that spreads. If you hide from others, You hide from the very mirrors that show you your true face. Have you noticed how easily someone else can shift your inner world? A kind word can lift you into heaven. A harsh one can cast you into hell. At first, this feels like weakness, but Rumi would tell you it is the greatest opportunity, because in those moments, you learn where your heart is still chained and where it is already free. Imagine sitting before a polished mirror. At first, you see only the reflection of your face. But then, if you look deeper, you notice the reflection of the sky behind you, the candlelight flickering nearby, the entire world held within the glass. That is what relationships do. They expand the mirror of the self until you can see the whole universe reflected. This is why Rumi often speaks of Shams, the friend who shattered his old identity. Their meeting was not comfortable. It was a fire. But through that fire, Rumi's soul woke up. Heaven entered not because life became easy, but because the mirror of another soul revealed his true light. So the question is not whether relationships bring you joy or pain. The question is, are you willing to see the mirror they hold? Heaven is when you look into that mirror and recognize the divine. Hell is when you look and refuse to see. Even in conflict, there is a hidden gift. Anger shows you the chains of your pride. Jealousy shows you the chains of your fear. Loss shows you the chains of your attachment. Each is an invitation to step closer to freedom. Each is a fire that can either burn you into ash or transform you into light. Rumi's vision is radical. Heaven is not found by escaping others, but by embracing them as mirrors of the beloved. And hell is not created by what they do, but by how you respond to the reflection they offer. So I ask you, who in your life has been the clearest mirror for your soul? Was it someone who loved you beyond words? Or was it someone who hurt you so deeply that you had to grow? Write it down. Share it if you wish. Because by naming the mirror, you begin to honor the doorway it opened. In every relationship, heaven and hell are waiting. And you, not the other person, hold the key to which one you will walk into. Part 10. Death is revelation, not ending. Most people fear death because they imagine it as the end, a final curtain that drops and erases everything. But Rumi does not see death as an erasure. He sees it as a revelation. Death is not the extinguishing of the lamp. It is the dawning of the sun. The flame of your being does not vanish. It expands, and what you carried secretly inside is suddenly lit up for all eternity. Heaven and hell, Rumi insists, are not waiting for you after your last breath. They are already blooming or burning in you now. Death simply reveals them more fully. If you have lived chained in fear, clinging to anger, consumed by resentment, those states will not dissolve when your body falls away. They will become the very atmosphere of your soul. That is hell. Not fire, not punishment by a distant judge, but the endless echo of your own unresolved shadows. And if you have lived with even a spark of love, if you have let go, if you have tasted presence, that spark will blaze open. Death cannot take it from you. It can only reveal it. That is heaven, not pearly gates, not a distant throne, but the flowering of your inner garden, now without the constraints of time or flesh. Imagine two people standing in the same room. One is suffocated by grief, the other is lifted by joy. The room is the same, the air is the same, yet one breathes heaven and the other breathes hell. This is how Rumi sees existence itself. Your state of heart determines your afterlife, and your afterlife begins here, in each moment of presence or absence. This vision is unsettling because it strips away excuses. No longer can we wait for a cosmic courtroom to decide our fate. The judge is inside us. The verdict is written in the choices we make every day. Every thought of bitterness is a brick in the walls of hell. Every act of kindness is a seed in the fields of heaven. Rumi once said, "Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even if you have never known such seasons before." Death, then, is the final season, but not the end of the cycle. It is the great unveiling. What has grown in secret will blossom in the open. You cannot plant thorns and expect roses in the next world, and you cannot plant roses without their fragrance following you beyond the grave. Think of the times when you have let go completely, maybe in love, maybe in music, maybe in a silent night under stars. That taste of freedom, of being more than your body, more than your worries, that is a rehearsal for death. That is what it means to die before you die, to practice surrender so that when the final surrender comes, you do not meet it with terror, but with recognition. For Rumi, death is not a stranger. It is the beloved coming in disguise. He would say, "Do not fear it, embrace it." For the one who has lived in presence, death is the great homecoming. For the one who has lived asleep, death is the shock of awakening too late. So the real question is not, what happens when we die? The real question is, what are you dying into right now? Every moment of anger is a little death into hell. Every moment of love is a little death into heaven. And the final death only magnifies what you have already chosen. This teaching is dangerous because it removes all delay. You cannot say, "I will fix my heart tomorrow." Tomorrow is already your eternity in the making. Heaven and hell are not later. They are here, hidden in your smallest acts, waiting to be revealed. Rumi whispers across centuries, "Die before you die. Let go of what is false now. Enter heaven while you are still alive, so that when your final breath comes, it will not be a fall into darkness, but a rising into the endless sky." So I ask you, what part of you is already dying, and what part is waiting to be born? This is not a question for the grave. It is a question for this very breath. Part 11. Die before you die. When Rumi tells us to die before we die, he is not speaking in riddles. He is giving us the most practical instruction for freedom. Yet to modern ears, it sounds like madness. Why should I die before my time? Why should I surrender before the grave calls me? Because, he says, if you wait until the body dies, you will face the shock unprepared. But if you practice dying now, you will learn the art of release while you still have the chance to transform. To die before you die means to let the false self collapse while you are still breathing. That mask you wear for the world, the roles you cling to, the possessions you guard, the grudges you polish like treasures, all of these belong to the self that is destined to vanish. And if you can let them fall now, then when the final fall comes, you will not be broken. You will be free. Think of how a snake sheds its skin. It rubs against stone, leaving behind what no longer fits. The snake does not mourn the old skin. It does not cling to it. It simply moves forward, lighter, renewed. Rumi calls us to do the same with our identities, our illusions, our fears. Let them peel away. Do not wait for death to strip them from you. Strip them yourself, in love, in presence, in surrender. To die before you die is to enter the unknown willingly. Most of us fight the unknown with every breath. We want control. We want maps. We want guarantees. But the mystic path offers no maps, only a lamp that glows one step ahead. Rumi says, take that step anyway. Step into the dark. Step into the fire. Step into the silence that frightens you. For that silence is where the beloved waits. If you can let go of your need to be right, you have died a little. If you can forgive when the wound is still fresh, you have died a little. If you can surrender your pride when the world applauds you, you have died a little. These small deaths prepare you for the great death. They train your soul in the art of release, and here lies the secret. Death itself is not the enemy. It is resistance that hurts. The river does not fear the ocean. It was always meant to flow there. But if the river resists, if it clings to its banks, it only suffers more. Rumi says, stop clinging. Let go. Flow. Die before you die. Heaven and hell are not geographical. They are psychological. They are spiritual. When you resist, when you fight against what is, you burn in hell. When you surrender, when you dissolve into what is, you awaken in heaven. To die before you die is to choose heaven now, to taste eternity in the middle of time. Consider this. Every night when you fall asleep, you practice a small death. You let go of the world, your body, your identity. You do not resist it. You welcome it. And in the morning, you rise renewed. Death is the great sleep, but Rumi asks, why wait for the end to rest in the arms of the infinite? Why not lay your head down now, in trust, in love, in surrender? And yet, most of us are terrified. We think, if I let go, I will lose myself. But Rumi answers, you cannot lose what is real. You can only lose what was never truly yours. You do not lose your soul when you die before you die. You lose only your chains. So let us turn this teaching into a question for you. What could you let die today? What mask could you remove? What fear could you release? What anger could you burn into ash? These are not small acts. They are rehearsals for eternity. And every time you die a little, you are born more fully alive. Die before you die, he says. And when the final death comes, you will recognize it not as an enemy, but as a lover. You will not enter darkness, but light. You will not collapse, but expand. So I leave you with this reflection. If death revealed itself to you tonight, would you resist, or would you rise into it with trust? Part 12. The doorway that never closes. Rumi often told his students that the soul is not a traveler toward God, but a traveler away from its own forgetfulness. You are not moving into eternity. You are already eternal. The journey is only to remember. The curtain of the ego falls, and what remains has always been. Heaven and hell, he whispers, are not waiting rooms for after death. They are the landscapes of your own heart. Every thought, every choice, every surrender, every resistance shapes the world you inhabit right now. When you cling, you create chains. When you release, you create wings. Hell burns in the grip of attachment. Heaven blossoms in the fragrance of release. Rumi says the soul is like a reed flute, hollow, empty, carved by loss. It plays its song only when the breath of the divine moves through it. If you fear the carving, if you resist the emptiness, you silence the music. But if you allow the hollowing, if you let go of what is false, your life becomes a melody that reaches heaven itself. To forget death is not to deny it. It is to see through it. The body may vanish, the name may fade, the stories others tell of you may dissolve into dust. But the soul, Rumi insists, does not end. It is woven into the tapestry of the infinite. It is not a candle that flickers out. It is the flame that joins the fire. He asks us, again and again, to step into this truth not as theory, but as lived reality. To walk as if eternity shines under our feet. To breathe as if each breath is already immortal. to love as if love is the only thing death can never touch. And when you live this way, heaven is not a promise for later. It is a presence now. So perhaps the question is not what happens after death. Perhaps the question is, how deeply can you live before it? How much can you let go? How much can you surrender? How much can you allow yourself to be burned, broken, emptied, so that the light can pour through? Rumi leaves us with this paradox. If you die before you die, then when death arrives, you do not die at all. You simply return. You merge with what has always been waiting. The beloved does not come to take you. The beloved comes to reveal that you were never separate. And now, I leave you with his words. Try to accept the wound, for it is the place where the light enters. Try to accept the loss, for it is the gate of remembrance. Try to accept the silence, for it is the language of God. If these words touched your heart, if they opened even the smallest doorway of remembrance, let this moment not pass quietly. In the spirit of Rumi's own invitation, share your reflection. Write in the comments what heaven and hell mean to you right now, in this life. Let your voice join the chorus of seekers. And if you wish to keep walking further on this path, to hear more of Rumi's secrets and hidden wisdom, then stay close. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and help carry these words into the ears of others who are waiting for them. Not for me, but for the beloved who speaks through all of us. For in the end, every word is only a finger pointing toward silence. And in that silence, eternity is waiting for you.